Democrat officials still refuse to accept the will of the American people. Maryland Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen rushed to Dulles Airport this morning to fly to El Salvador, potentially using taxpayer dollars.
The Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen, who recently flew to El Salvador demanding that the president of El Salvador reverse Trump foreign policy and let go a man who has been found by two judges to be a member of MS-13, who had a deportation order that was later upheld by an appellate court. This man was rightfully deported. By going down and arguing against Trump's foreign policy and negotiating with a president or administration of another country, this is a violation of the Logan Act. We have this story from The Independent. Did Democratic senator who tried to help man wrongly deported to El Salvador violate the Logan Act? Even if you want to argue that this was a wrongful deportation, it is against the law to go and conduct unofficial foreign policy in a foreign country. And that's exactly what Chris Van Hollen did when he made this video, basically saying he was going to go down and defy a negotiation our president had with a foreign president. Take a look at what he said.
I'm here at the airport. I'm about to board my flight for San Salvador. The goal of this mission is to let the Trump administration, to let the government of El Salvador know that we are going to keep fighting to bring Abrego Garcia home until he returns to his family. I hope to meet with representatives of the government. I hope to have the chance to actually see Kilmar and see what his condition is. But we are going to keep fighting because this is a miscarriage of justice. The Supreme Court has ruled 9-0, that he was illegally taken out of the country and put in a prison in El Salvador. And this is about due process. This is about rule of law. What bullies do is they begin by picking on the most vulnerable. But if we get rid of the rule of law, due process, in the United States, it's a short road from there to tyranny.
Sure, I don't disagree with that, a short road to tyranny. But let's talk about the most vulnerable. This guy's saying that Abrego Garcia is the most vulnerable. Now, again, the Logan Act means he can't go conduct this foreign policy. That's what he did. Take a look at this post from Bill Malugan. Fox News has obtained the written domestic violence allegations from Kilmar Abrego Garcia's wife in 2021, in which she alleges he is a repeat wife beater and writes, quote, "At this point, I am afraid to be close to him. I have multiple photos and videos of how violent he can be and all the bruises he has left me." In her own handwriting, she alleges that Abrego Garcia punched and scratched her on her eye, leaving her bleeding after throwing her laptop on the floor. She writes that on another day, he got angry again, started yelling, ripped her shirt and shorts off, grabbed her arm, leaving marks. She also writes that in 2 times in 2020, he hit her. Quote, "In November 2020, he hit me with his work boot. In August 2020, he hit me in the eye, leaving a purple eye." So this guy wants to say that an MS-13 gang member who beats his wife is one of the most vulnerable people, and he should be brought back to this country. So did he violate the Logan Act? First, here's the Logan Act. It is a United States federal law that criminalizes negotiation of a dispute between the U.S. and a foreign government by an unauthorized American citizen. The intent behind the act is to prevent unauthorized negotiations from undermining the government's position. The act was passed following George Logan's unauthorized negotiations with France in 1798 and was signed into law by President John Adams, January 30th, 1799. The act was amended in 94, changing the penalty for a violation from a fine of $5,000 to fined under this title. This appears to be the only amendment to the act. Violation of the Logan Act is a felony, punishable by imprisonment for up to 3 years. Only 2 people have ever been indicted for charges of violating the act, one in 1802 and another in 1852. Neither was convicted. So here's what The Independent says. They say Maryland's Chris Van Hollen infuriated Republicans with the trip, accusing him of violating a 200-year-old law aimed at preventing people from undermining the government. I just want to point out, when they say that it's a 200-year-old law, yes, so is murder. Murder is actually much older than that. They do this because they're trying to make it seem like old laws shouldn't be followed. Okay, we have laws on the books. You can't steal. Garcia, who lives with his wife and children in Van Hollen State, was sent to the Central American country by Donald Trump's administration. The U.S. government has since refused to comply with a federal court order demanding the 29-year-old's repatriation. Incorrect. The Supreme Court ruled, yes, the man should have due process, that all individuals being deported must get habeas, a habeas ruling, meaning do we have a right to hold and deport them, to hold and penalize them? They ruled no one can compel the executive branch to engage in foreign policy, and that Trump should facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia if possible. The Supreme Court acknowledges they can't instruct Trump to cut a deal with El Salvador, and that only if the man is capable of returning should he facilitate this return. The Democrats are lying, and so is the media when they say he's a Maryland father. He's not. He's from El Salvador. They're lying when they say the Supreme Court ruled he has to bring him back. No, they said if he's able to be brought back and not compelling Trump to engage in foreign policy. That is the sole authority of the executive branch, not the judiciary. They'd basically be saying that Trump has to negotiate some terms. No, Trump has a deal with El Salvador. This is the policy of our government. Now let's talk about other instances where they argued Trump as president had no authority to change foreign policy. When Donald Trump was negotiating with Ukraine, the Burisma scandal, and said, you should be looking into what Joe Biden said when he said, if you don't fire the prosecutor, you're not getting $1 billion. They said Trump has no authority to undermine this. This is U.S. foreign policy, and Joe Biden can't be investigated because he was adhering to foreign policy. Donald Trump as the executive is in charge. You can't have it both ways. You can't argue that the president can't engage in foreign policy, but Joe Biden was allowed to when he wasn't the president. And Donald Trump wanted an investigation. You see how they're trying to play it both ways? It's a scam. Chris Van Hollen, by going down to El Salvador and demanding the release of Abrego Garcia in defiance of the deals that Trump has cut, is undermining our foreign policy and violates the Logan Act. He may be a federal representative as a senator, but he does not represent the position of the U.S. government. He does not have that authority. They tried getting Michael Flynn on the Logan Act. Michael Flynn was going to be Trump's national security advisor. And they argued that because, take a look at this. Let me see if I can pull this one up. Michael Flynn, and this is from 2017. They tried arguing that Flynn, because he communicated with a guy from Russia that violated the Logan Act. Now, they didn't go after him on this. They say, December 1st, 2017, Michael Flynn, President Trump's former national security advisor, pleaded guilty Friday to providing false statements to the FBI. Those are less serious charges than he could have faced because he's cooperating. Flynn likely had something to trade, blah, blah, blah. Let's get to the part where they mention the Logan Act. Not in the title. Let's go down. They say, the Logan Act often comes up, blah, blah, blah. We know this. It's named for George Logan. Official Adams administration envoys tried unsuccessfully to settle the unrest with France. That's when Logan, a Quaker, embarked on this effort. No one's ever been convicted of it. Some people raised the Logan Act and whether Boehner was in violation, but let's go back. They say that the Logan Act has mostly been used as a political weapon. Various courts have mentioned it. They go on to mention that Ronald Reagan said in an interview of the Logan Act, that is the land of the law. So let's try and go down. The potential of a Logan Act violation was raised when Democratic Rep. Tulsi Gabbard met with Bashar al-Assad. But you are allowed to meet with foreign leaders as long as you're not conducting foreign policy. They said, we noted in February that if Flynn in any way reassured the Russian ambassador in his phone conversation or text the incoming Trump administration would loosen or drop sanctions Obama put in place, that could potentially be a violation. And that's the important point. Only if Flynn actually offered that. Now, here's the thing. Flynn was part of the incoming administration, having a conversation about what the incoming administration may want to do. They said that's violated the Logan Act. They argued in 2024, it could be illegal for Trump to call Putin. If Donald Trump, as a private citizen, is about to enter office, look at this, in November of October of 2024, or his national security advisor, that's not undermining the position of the government. So this is before the election, fine. But as for Flynn, he was actually part of an incoming administration. These conversations took place just before Trump was brought into office, and they said that violated the Logan Act, or that it was on the border of doing it. That was the position of the media across the board. I say Chris Van Hollen should be charged. He flew down to help this guy, This guy who was detained on suspicion of human trafficking, found to be driving without a valid license in 2022, who is said to have beaten his wife, who was arrested with gang members in MS-13, identified as a member of MS-13. If the Democrat senator wants to go down and he issues a demand, and that's what he said he's doing, he's telling them, release this man. That is in violation of the Logan Act, which exists specifically to prevent these things from happening. If we do not have justice under this law, if Trump does not uphold this, then what law do we really have? Chris Van Hollen has been going on and on and on about he wants this guy returned. Donald Trump cut a deal with El Salvador. He said, you harbor these criminal illegal immigrants, these terrorists and gang members that are deported under the Alien Enemies Act. We'll send them to you. Why? Venezuela would not take them back. Abrego Garcia is a Salvadoran citizen. He was sent home. Now, some people say, yeah, but he's not convicted of a crime. Yes, he got his due process. He was found to have been here illegally. He admitted to entering the country illegally. He had a deportation order. The court upheld he was a member of MS-13, denied bond, and ordered his deportation. A second court agreed he was a member of MS-13 and said he must be deported. He got a withholding of deportation, a temporary protective order, because he argued he would die if he went home. But the conditions in El Salvador have changed. He was sent home, and El Salvador decided that as he is a member of MS-13, they will uphold their laws. That's the law in El Salvador. You're in MS-13, they lock you up. So in what reality does it make sense for a Democrat to undermine U.S. foreign policy? I don't think it does. So maybe this guy should get criminally charged, and then we'll let a jury decide. It looks like there's probable cause. There's a preponderance of evidence. It's plainly visible. Will we have in the Trump administration a DOJ willing to actually charge people with crimes and they blatantly do it? And it's not just this Van Hollen. Cory Booker and others have talked about going down there. That is seeking to undermine Trump's foreign policy. And they are lying. So let's bear this out in court. When this Chris Van Hollen says the Supreme Court ordered him to return this man. No, they didn't. It said facilitate his return. That is, if he is capable of returning, they bring him back. As he is in prison in El Salvador and a Salvadoran citizen, that's not going to happen. And the Supreme Court said no one's going to compel foreign policy of the executive branch. So Trump's not going to do anything. He's going to say Salvadoran man, Salvadoran prison, Salvador law. El Salvador. It is strange. It is strange that you've got politicians and Democrats jumping on the wrong side of an 80-20 issue, arguing for a man who was found by two courts and these documents by his own wife. And they're calling him a Maryland father. It's the Maryland father hoax. Everyone in media is saying a Maryland father. They're lying, saying he was here legally. No, he was not. He was here illegally. He was here illegally. A temporary protective order does not grant legal status. That's a fact of law. He had no legal status. They could have deported him to a different country. He could have prepared to file for asylum in a different country. He did not do it. Trump did everything right, except maybe, according to the law, a U.S. CIS interview determining that El Salvador was no longer dangerous. And if he wanted to argue, this Abrego Garcia, that the danger he faced was that he would be put in prison by his own government. Yeah, sorry, that means you're a criminal in your own country. That's not our responsibility. So here we go, my friends. I'm going to wrap it up there. Stay tuned. We got more segments coming up for you today. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast, and we'll see you all in the next segment.